What is up, guys? It's Flash back with some more charts and another video. It is Monday, August 4, about 3:15 p.m. Eastern. Got a lot of content to go through today, guys, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. If you want to subscribe to the daily membership on YouTube, I post a video about 5 minutes long every single day going through a lot of the stuff that I'm about to show you and walk you through today. If you're interested in that, feel free to check it out on YouTube by hitting join below the video. All right, so at the time of this recording, Bitcoin's at 115.1. It's been a volatile past weekend. That's the name of the game when it comes to Bitcoin. Volatility is vitality. And so what I want to talk a little bit about today, guys, just to kind of kick off the video, is I've been listening a lot to Jeff Booth. He's been on some podcasts recently. I read his book, The Price of Tomorrow. Really good if you guys haven't read it. But what he talks about is instead of thinking about Bitcoin going up in US dollar terms, he mentions that the natural state of a global free market is deflation. And that means prices go down over time, right? Because of competition. Companies, people want to compete and deliver more value for less cost, right? So prices would fall to the marginal cost of production over time. And so we don't see that in a debt-based economy, right? Because the government or what have you, the powers that be, they have to service the debt, they have to roll the debt, they have to increase the money supply, right, to keep the system afloat. And that plays into other things in this video as well. But so that obviously you have inflation and you have fiat currency debasement, and it just blurs the lines of what of value in the real world, in the economy. So what he talks about is Bitcoin flips this on its head, right? Bitcoin unlocks you to kind of see the natural state of the free market, right? It completely puts it on its head where, this is obviously Bitcoin just inverted, right? But this is really, you can think about it where this is the prices of all goods and services, right? They go down over time because of a free market, because of AI and productivity, and because you're measuring things from scarcity and from a network. Prices ultimately will fall forever, right? Like this is the same exact chart, just put in the regular scale, and it's just the fact of, from my perspective, you have to get off zero, right? You can't really hold fiat dollars. If you hold Bitcoin, your life and your purchasing power just gets better and better every single day, week, quarter, year, right? So it's really just kind of been super powerful for me. Is like, maybe you want to get to 10 Bitcoin, maybe you want to get to 5 Bitcoin, maybe you want to get to 1 Bitcoin, or maybe you just want to get to a half a Bitcoin or 0.2 Bitcoin or 0.1 Bitcoin. No matter how much Bitcoin you want to get to, it's just a matter of getting off zero to let the technology and the hard asset do its thing. Once you get off zero, all it takes is time, and prices will fall forever for you if you hold Bitcoin. So I don't know, just super powerful for me to kind of translate Jeff Booth. And I think, the purpose of this channel is to kind of be a bridge for some people to maybe get it, or to maybe get orange pilled, or, to just think about things a little bit differently. I'm not really sure, but I think it's super powerful to measure the world in Bitcoin rather than in US dollars. And if you are thinking like, hey, Bitcoin's going up in US dollars, I'm not sure that is I think there's more to it than thinking about up in dollars, where instead everything is going down in Bitcoin. So I don't know, a little bit of a rant to kick off the video, but let's get into some of the other stuff that I want to cover. So I found this fractal coming out of the COVID low here in March 2020. Bitcoin kind of went up pretty quickly, consolidated, had a little bit of a pop here, domed consolidation, and then continued running. And so I think that's just kind of very similar coming out of the tariff low here, right? Bitcoin ran pretty quick, went sideways consolidation, and then had a little pop, a little bit of a dip. And then hopefully, I think we can explode to the upside. And so that is the same fractal overlaid into Bitcoin's price chart today. I'm not sure we're going to get that, but maybe if we shrink it down a little bit, we could get something like that, right? And this would run to 200K plus. I think that's kind of fun to think about. And it looks like the fractal's lining up pretty good. All right, so if we look at where we're at today with Bitcoin and we overlay the global M2, yes, this chart has been pushed everywhere on X, on Twitter. I think it was on Fox News the other day. And so, whether this is really alpha or not, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm still going to continue following it because it's been tracking pretty good, right? And so, over the last 30, 60, 90 days, we have a 79.2% correlation. I'm in the camp where I think we're going to catch up to the M2 eventually, right? Who knows? But you kind of see here we have a big blow off move, it looks like, as we near the end of September into the middle of October. And then we're going to see if we continue bouncing, continue going higher or not. When we overlay the price of gold push forward by 91 days, we have an 85.8% correlation, the 30, 60, 90 day average. And again, I'm thinking we're going to catch up to gold here. And so when we put them both on the chart, both look pretty good. It looks like I think gold wants to go higher as well too, right? So that's very interesting, where gold is kind of the current financial conditions. And when you push that forward 90 days, I think Bitcoin tends to lag it, that and M2, right? And so when we add MSTR to the mix, which is the pink line, again, it gets pretty crowded here, but MSTR is at the mercy of Bitcoin's price action, right? And so we're going to continue diving into that as we go along here. So when we bring up the command center, as I call it, this is something I review on a daily basis. But you can see here we had a little bit of a violent dip on Bitcoin last Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the energy is still, it lost some energy here, but there's still a detrending resistance line that we want to get above, and I think that's going to ignite the next move to 120, 125, 130. Rate of change is still positive for Bitcoin, which is great. That means overall it's positive price action despite the dips. And then here we have the rate of change push forward for M2 and the rate of change push forward for gold by about 90 days, right? And so if you're new, the idea here is these are forward-looking indicators, right? So not only do we have the overlays up top to kind of judge price and see if Bitcoin follows it, but we can detect the rate of change, the momentum, the energy behind said moves, right? So we can look for consolidations and breakdowns to say, hey, if this is pushed forward 90 days and Bitcoin maybe will follow this, we should have a better sense and more confidence kind of in the direction of Bitcoin as it progresses along here. All right, so I'm at a bit of a crossroads here because my man Leo Hart at Leo Math Hart on X, he puts together these beautiful indicators, right? And this is the rainbow wave that you see on the screen here. It's the rainbow wave that you saw in the previous slide. Just beautiful work, and it's all about mathematics and physics, and it incorporates the power law. And as you can see here, if you could buy in the green and sell in the red, buy in the green, sell in the red, you can compound your Bitcoin stack. And I'm not necessarily saying to do that, right? There's definitely credence to just buy and hold and continue buying over time. But I am kind of just curious, like, when is this top going to be? And so Leo put together it's Fibonacci based time, and it has to do with when the halving is and the amount of blocks. And so he's been able to project out the next kind of local top and then the next bottom here for Bitcoin. And so when we zoom in a little bit, if this holds up, the next top is going to be around 10, 23, 25, according to this indicator, right? And then the next bottom would be, October of 2026, it looks like. And so, I'm just kind of curious. I'm at a crossroads because when we think about what price action has been like the past, few months, right? I think it's a little bit different than 2017. It's obviously a little bit different than, 2021, 2022. We're kind of just stair-stepping and going up and to the right in a pretty consistent channel, right? And so when we think about the ISM, and again, thank you to Raul Pal and Julian Battelle from Real Vision for putting this on my radar at least. The ISM, or the manufacturing index, or the business cycle, they've kind of found that it links with Bitcoin. Once the ISM gets over 50, that's really when Bitcoin likes to go and have its massive runs, right? And so as you can see here, if you line up the ISM, what it was doing before, and then what it's doing today, we're kind of just going sideways, maybe a little bit up and to the right. But that kind of speaks to this little channel here with Bitcoin, right? And so what Raoul Pal and Julian were able to do is they put the GMI Financial Conditions Index, and they push it forward by about 9 months. And so I think this takes into consideration liquidity, the dollar, other macroeconomic factors, right? And they're able to push it forward and kind of project out where the ISM is going, right? And so if we look back in 2012, 2013, 2014, the ISM, and I overlaid Bitcoin in the orange, they looked pretty similar, right? There was some correlation here. If we look at 2016 through 2018, with the ISM in the white and Bitcoin in orange, again, very, very similar. And then if we look at 2020, 2021, 2022, ISM and Bitcoin, again, very similar, right? Once it cracks 50, that's when Bitcoin likes to go on these massive runs. And so what does the ISM look like today? Well, again, we're in this little sideways channel, sideways consolidation, sideways chop. Oh, and what do we have on Bitcoin? We have a beautiful channel that is just going consistently up and to the right at what appears to be like a 45-degree angle, right? And where does MSTR come into play? Well, you've seen that channel on MSTR. We're just going up and to the right kind of consistently, right? With some drawdowns over time, but just very, very consistent. So when we look at this rainbow wave and the power law, I'm not so sure that we will top, on October 23rd, according to that indicator. Again, this is kind of just for fun, but I think there could be credence in just continuing up these golden channels, right, into Q1, Q2 of 2026. I'm not really sure. But when we go back to the ISM, and the GMI Financial Conditions Index, I kind of trust this. I trust that the ISM will crack 50 and go above 50 and make a run to maybe 55 or 60. And this is pushed forward by about 9 months. So that leads me to believe that, yeah, this is going to go into Q1 or Q2 of 2026. But I think once the ISM cracks 50, that's when you could really see some aggressive price action, right? That maybe goes up and out of this golden channel. So I think that's the point that I want to drive home, where we could still see parabolic price action. And then here you have MSTR, here's that channel that I was just talking about. Maybe there is this parabola on price of MSTR. I'm not 100% sure. It sure is fun to analyze and think about, what if we get up to 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000? But you look at this earnings release and they talk about, not doing the ATM if the MNAV is between 2.5 and 4. And if we bring up MicroStrategist Ballistic Acceleration Model, we have our MNAV Explorer, at a price of 150K Bitcoin and a 4x MNAV, price is right there at 1,200. If we go up to 200 or 250, that's when these price targets really come into play. And who's to say we don't run past 4x MNAV? I think that's possible now. And so here we are today. Moral of the story is, we're hanging on for dear life in this channel, right? We're at the parabola line, which you can adjust, right? It's kind of just there to show the potential, right? But here we're sitting at 387. We had a pretty violent dip this past weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this keep on trucking, especially if the ISM starts to print above 50. Bitcoin goes to 125, 145, 155. I think MSTR at the end of the day is mercy to Bitcoin's price action, right? And so On-Chain Mind, I retweeted this, and he has a great video on this. But this is MSTR measured in Bitcoin, and we're extremely undervalued, right? This is the time to be accumulating MSTR versus dumping MSTR, right? Not financial advice, that's just my opinion, but that's what this indicator is telling us. These are all little pockets of MSTR being undervalued measured in Bitcoin. And then here's Julius on X, JV_finance. This is just more MSTR being undervalued. And in the past, when that occurred, Bitcoin even went on these massive runs up and to the right. You have a 90% move, a 100% move, a 60% move, and I think this is the average, an 85% move that gets you up to 190 or 200K Bitcoin. I think that could paint a pretty good picture for MSTR being at least $1,000, right? And so here's a little bonus chart. This is MSTR measured in MSTY. This is if you reinvest dividends in MSTY. But I think this could be our signal here. When MSTR breaks out against MSTY, again, that could be the time the official run is on. So I thought that was interesting. All in all, guys, I know that was a jam-packed video. I hope I'm making sense. This is kind of just a journal entry for me. So I can look back on these videos and say, yep, this is where my head was at. But again, if you want to join the daily video, feel free to do so on YouTube. This is Flash. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.